program are not those of the owners, advertisers, and management company of Sugar City FM 90.3, nor are such statements necessarily supported or endorsed by the owners, managers, or advertisers of the station. While we encourage all to share their opinions, we do not support any comments that may slander, discriminate, or otherwise offend anyone, and we insist that you refrain from any such statements.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer? Pandora come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor. Every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Good evening and welcome to Fear No Favor. I'd like to say a special good night to Zaya, Nital, NewRish, Nital, Anish, Nital, Nayan, Nital, and Naliaka, Nital. They're all listening, so I must say hi and hello to them. Now we're going to look at a few topics and subtopics this evening. And if you get a chance, you can call in. I think it's 466-0903 and be a part of my discussion tonight. I listened to our Prime Minister, the Honorable Dr. Terence Michael Joe, and he spoke about the nurses wearing the most conducive clothing to avoid contamination of the health environment. And I thought that was excellent. It's important that way back when the nurses go to work, they would walk with their uniforms in bags, and they would carry their own clothes, wear their own clothes, and upon reaching the hospital, they would change over into their uniforms. And I guess this was the same principle that were being applied, because they didn't want you to take contamination from the outside to the inside. So you only put on your nursing uniform, either done by the nurse's home, just across there where you now have the development unit for education. Yes, and you take a stroll up to the hospital, or maybe you walk with it in your bag, and when you reach your unit that you're working on, then you get just into your uniform. And that was to prevent contamination from the outside reaching in. And likewise, after they would have completed their duties, they would have removed their uniforms and put on their going home clothes, so to speak, because it was also to avoid nurses taking home contaminated uniforms, or taking them on buses, taking them in vehicles, and eventually reaching home. So it was a two-way consideration. Do not wear your uniform to work, you put it on when you reach there. And do not wear your uniform back home, because you can also contaminate your home environment. It is an excellent idea also that I heard the PM, the good PM, mentioned. He did indicate that there is a need for specializing of nurses in the various departments of our healthcare system, the ICU, the theater, the oncology, psychiatric care, psychological care, and other parallel departments. Because it's just around here we have nurses doing general work, but in other places, nurses are also specialized, apart from doctors who might be specialized in those particular areas. You had specialized nurses doing the same thing. Because remember, the doctor job is a little above the nurses, but at least if the nurses are specialized as well, they can make people more comfortable or bring them closer to seeing the specialized doctor. You don't have to wait because you do not know what to do. You know what to do, so you do what you can do until the doctor is ready to tender his services. And I think that is a brilliant idea. He spoke and he was very passionate about sending off persons to specialize, nurses to specialize. And please, when we say nurses, we're not talking about females alone. There are quite a number of male nurses. So he spoke about male and female nurses. And it is an excellent move. Whether they will have to go away to train or you'll have to bring persons from various places to have them trained. Maybe they go to Cuba or they go to Canada or they go to Taiwan, wherever they have to go to get the training. And we would like for when they come back, even though those were the ones who were primarily trained in that specialized area, they can come home and help to do some in-house training as well. So persons who might not have had the certification in that area, when they are ready to go, it should take them less of a time to stay out there. So excellent idea by the good doctor. But we have a sort of inherent problem. I would have spoken to a few persons in authority, and there was a complaint that the nurses, they go to CFBC to complete their studies and training, and when the time was up for them to now go to the hospital to perform from a practical perspective, there were quite a number of them who were not looking forward to doing that. I would hope that that would change and come around, because the reason you go to nursing school is to acquire the capacity to perform from a practical perspective. It's no use to have the theory and you're not looking forward to go work on the surgical ward or the medical ward or the psychiatric ward or ICU or in the theater. You must always look for, that must be your ultimate goal, to go and apply what you would have learned in your years of studies. And the thing about it is that they are being paid. They are paid, whether 3/5, 4/5, and they are contracted. So therefore you have to go and put in your work. You would have gotten paid while you were in training or while you were studying. And there are some persons who do not get a cent while they are studying. A lot of people do not get study leave with pay. Some people get study leave without pay. Some get study leave with pay. And if you get study leave without pay, I don't know about the bonding aspect of it, whether it is compelling that you come back to put in a certain number of years. But if you get study leave with pay, that is definitely the case, whether they will be bonding you for 3 years, 4 years, 5 years. So we have to look into that. Amazingly, I spoke to a nurse yesterday. I saw her, I did not see her for quite a while. And I asked her, how many years do you have in nursing? And she told me this year would make 43 years. And I was very happy. She said, you have to hold on because you need nurses who are still dedicated. And maybe when she looks around and she see the passion or lack of passion that some nurses perform with, she realized that it's not time for me to leave. But 43 years of nursing, not 43 days, 43 years. And I think that she must be commended highly. And I hope when the time comes for her to make her departure and try to enjoy the rest of her life, that she is given a good send-off. 43 years, that's quite a lot of years carrying out one profession. Now, also, I would like to look at the site of the hospital, the new hospital where it's supposed to be built. And if I have it correctly within my mind, I think it is across from the medical institution, West University, or the medical institution area. On the northern side, that is the side with the hills or the mountains. I am not absolutely certain if at one point when I worked at the Department of Environment as a project officer and worked closely with the persons from the water department, whether or not that area was questionable, because I might be wrong and I'm subject to corrections, but I think that there was a potential well field, and as such they were trying to prevent structures from going up in that area. You realize there might be structures going up further up, but down in that area where they might have had a potential well field. A well field means where a well can be constructed and water drawn from it. And in the event something happens to that one, they can dig a different area, they can drill a different area, come up with. So they call it a well field. You got a well and you can construct several of them if the need came about. So I'm not absolutely certain, but I would ask a question maybe of Dennis and Paul or maybe even Cromwell, whether or not down there was once restricted with respect to putting down structures for housing because of the potential well field that might be down there. It would be an excellent development if you were to construct a new hospital, but the time frame that persons are talking about, 18 months to 24 months. If we were to construct a state-of-the-art hospital as is being placed in public domain, that cannot take 2 years. And I think that it is nice to be positive, but it is also better to be realistic. I do not think that any state-of-the-art hospital, meaning that it would be much better, by how many folds I do not know, much better than the one that we currently have, that cannot take 2 years. To me, that is like between 5 and 10 years. So I would wish that the time frames that are given to the general public can be a little bit more realistic, because if you're going to include departments and equipment and those stuff, apparatuses, that we never had before, and we want to make it maybe even more spacious and accommodating, and of course accommodating in a comfortable manner, then I don't see a new hospital coming before 5 to 10 years. And properly constructed. See, sometimes when we have politicians. They tend to want to give as many persons as possible, so to speak, a piece of the pie, meaning that during the construction of the hospital, they will subcontract various subcontractors. That in itself would have created some problems with JNF Hospital, because especially when it comes to the plumbing, the electrical work, the AC work, they had different subcontractors. And as such, future work created problems, because one set might have done a particular way, another set might have done it a different way, and then only a specific set would have knowledge of the blueprint of the layout, the plumbing layout, the electrical layout, and that created some problems. So very often you have to deconstruct, to reconstruct, deconstruct to find some lead to somewhere. And I think that is one area where we definitely would have to be very, very careful with. We have to understand when we put down plumbing lines that they will be there for quite a number of years. And we must also remember to have proper maintenance. Proper maintenance. I think one time at the hospital I turned on a pipe and I saw some particles coming from the pipe. I took the particles somewhere to be tested, and I think it was manganese that was coming from the pipe. So we have to be very careful what we are doing, what we are putting down, and also remember that they'll be there for a period of time. So as such, we must be able to have blueprints to lead us back to the original area so we can follow the lines and have remedial work done in a proper way. So we have to be absolutely careful with contracting and subcontracting. One thing I notice around here is that you'll have persons carrying out capital projects, and then you have some project, or you have some persons managing the projects. Sometimes the persons who are managing a project has absolutely no clue as to the area of expertise. So it is difficult for you to be a project manager. Maybe from an administrative perspective, you could say, well, who come early, who come late, who missed there, who missed that. But if there's a connection, a faulty connection, and faulty measurements with serious ramification, potential ramifications, how can you, as a project manager, be aware of it? What if a contractor doing something and he eventually changes to something else? How would you know what would be the ramification of those changes, last minute change or adjustments? So if you want to be a project manager for capital projects, I think that you should get training in that particular area to be a project manager in that specific field. Too many persons are given the job, and you could say wasted opportunity to be project managers when they are not absolutely certain as to what's going on. We have to be very careful with that. We just don't give work for giving work's sake. We have to look at what could possibly happen. We would have been bitten by ignorance of project managers, presumably project managers before, and would have cost us scarce taxpayers' money to carry out corrections of faulty areas. We cannot afford to do that blindly. You give in person a job to do as a contractor, they must know what? Hire some subcontractors to do things that they themselves don't even understand what to do. And I think that our culture would have to change within that particular mindset. We have to change that. Unless it would cost us and cost us and cost us. And we have to be up on our maintenance. Too many government structures would have been purchased over and over and over as a result of lack of maintenance. Places are getting moldy. Places are experiencing leaks in piping. Places are being experiencing loose electrical work or deteriorating electrical work. That is a potential fire hazard. And these leaking pipes in many government buildings, it tends to cause water using, but no can be accounted for. And I think that we need to look out for that. We should not be incurring unnecessary expenses because of lack of maintenance. Each capital structure could have a maintenance crew that they can call on, not only when there is something faulty, but sometimes to just inspect, because sometimes the fault doesn't manifest itself sufficiently before it would have spiraled out of control. So we actually need to have inspections. We have to have inspections. And that can help save costs. A lot of our buildings can do with a coat of paint. There are many reasons objects are painted. And if you're painting them to avoid the elements of the weather, especially water and oxygen, if the paint starts coming off and you don't pay it any attention and have it repainted in a timely manner, there's always the potential of corrosion. If it's iron, it would rust. Is that any other type of metal, they'll corrode as well. Corroded iron is just given the name rust from a chemistry perspective. So we have to be careful that we inspect and we maintain as the need arises, unless we can be heading down a rabbit hole with respect to expenditure when it would have gone way, way, way out of control. And if you inspect and maintain, it would also create an opportunity for you to continuously use that fixed asset without having to break from the normal occupancy that would have been carried out. Can't tell people stay home because we need to fix this and fix that. And also, molds would not develop easily. I don't know why, but we're supposed to be a tropical island, and yet we use so much AC. Town is filled with air-conditioned units, and they don't run off of water, they run off of electricity. And this white man mentality to put AC in so many buildings, that is creating a problem for us. Next thing, the amount of electricity they use, we have to go and get generators to assist in the generation of sufficient electricity. and the ACs are not properly maintained in many cases, and as a result, you have good fodder, good condition for mold formation. So your workers start to get sick. They start to develop respiratory problems. And when mold become a part of your respiratory system, it stays there for a very, very long time. As a matter of fact, two brothers who were overwhelmingly impacted by molds in the U.S., they went on to study molds and did a doctorate and everything and research. And maybe are the two best there is in America when it comes to attending to persons who would have developed mold infections. That is nothing to play with. I lost my voice for about 2 months due to being in a moldy environment. And there's nothing anybody can do to have me occupy any moldy environment. I have learned the hard way. Many times I got up and tried to say something, and so many prayers, so many persons recommended so many things, but I think the ultimate thing was with the good Lord. One morning I get up and I actually heard my voice, and I said, praise God. Because my voice is my way forward, and if I'm to have some upward mobility, it would come from my voice. So we have to be careful. We'll take a break, and when we come back, we look at the Bastia Senior High School 55 years of celebration.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar Soda 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is one? Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM. Citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar Soda 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is one? Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSankits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Welcome back to Fear No Favor. Now, our lovely Bastia Senior High School, I think, is celebrating 55 years of existence. And I just want to touch a particular area with respect to that Bastia Senior High School. We had a school that had issues, and as a result of that, the school was relocated. There was an inherent problem, maybe within the soil and maybe above at some time. and therefore caution had to be taken with respect to making adjustments at the school. My understanding is that initially when pipes went down, big stones might have blocked some major pipeway, and as a result you had sewage or effluent from the bathroom area occasionally resurfacing as a result of the saturation of the soil in that area, because it was super saturated at times, and of course soil that is super saturated would not allow more water to percolate downwards, and as such problems would have been developing for years upon years. And somehow it is my understanding that the blueprint that was housed maybe over by Public Works Department, we had one or two hurricanes that might have destroyed some of those documents. So it was like guesswork trying to get to certain areas to have systems checked out, inspected, corrected. I can recall that they were looking for something over on the Bastia High School compound, and they actually met it over under the stage at Carnival City. So obviously there was some guesswork going on. And also the piping that they used, the diameter of the piping, became a little bit too small due to the increase in volume of students and teachers occupying the Bastia High School. So there were issues, and things had to be done to alleviate and appease parents, teachers, and students alike. Now, those students were placed up Taylor's Range by a makeshift fashion. Nobody expected those children to be up there up until now. It is extremely unfortunate for those children to be housed or accommodated in that makeshift structural environment that was supposed to be temporary. Now seems as if it is permanent with the passage of time. Maybe there might be intentions to do something later on. I think I understand the Minister Dr. Hanley, to indicate that they were going to make efforts to reconstruct that school, but at the same site as the previous structure. Well, of course, they would have to maybe dig up the soil, go down at least 10 feet or more, dig up, discard, then refill, compact, and do what they have to do. Whether they will demolish all the buildings on the property would be left to be seen. I guess the engineers would know what is best for that area. But my concern is students were housed in that temporary structure for far too long. The rooms were they are poorly ventilated. The rooms are terribly hot. You had students who would have fainted in those rooms. You have students who would have ended up at the end of the day with headaches. You have students, when they reach home, did not have the drive and energy to do anything else. You had students who suffered the psychological impact of feeling discarded, and people were indifferent about that because they were not attending there. So all those things would have been occupying students' mind. They had students who went to school, left home to go to school and never reached. Instead, they might have congregated somewhere under some tree or down by the basketball court and smoke up the weed or lime and do things that they ought not to have been doing when they ought to have been in school. But then we have to ask ourselves some serious questions. Keeping the school in that state and altering the mindset of those students would have contributed to some antisocial behavior. Some people miss school. I would like some statistics to be done as to the absenteeism and the punctuality at that school. I dropped my children off to that school several times, and many times you see so many students on the road. Once ago, students used to do that to avoid having to go to assembly because they consider the assembly is very boring. But it wasn't that alone. Students were just fed up of being in those foul cubs at the Bastia High School. And I think that many of them may have stopped from school as a result of being permanently housed in that temporary structure. And we have to apologize to those students and move at an expedited pace to get accommodation for these children. Every time politicians get a chance to tell people about state of the art this and state of the art that, they capitalize without the impact it would have on the interim, because you have to wait. And the more state of the art something is the longer it would take, first of all, to formulate and then execute the project. These latter state of the art ought not to have been at the nucleus of consideration while children were suffering in the interim, in those full coops that they had, or they are still housed in. And I just want to make a special appeal to the authorities to expedite, quicken up the process or processes. And there's always some story about drawings. Drawings used to be done on hands before. Now they can be done. They have computerization. They can do a lot of things. So no excuse at all should be anything about any drawings. If you want to make something state of the art up to a grade of 20, because that is where you want to take it, then if the students and teachers are suffering while in the interim of you putting down the state of the art up to level 20, bring it down to 11, 12 and do what you have to do. Do what you have to do. We have been performing academically for years, excellent results throughout the Caribbean. Compared to other Caribbean islands, we were doing well. So state of the art, I'm not buying into any state of the art anything. I am buying into the situation be rectified and get the students them in more comfortable positions. People could get heat stroke. Classroom them too hot. Poor ventilation. You have so many students inside of a classroom. Everybody breathing out carbon dioxide. As you breathe it out, somebody breathes it in. The carbon dioxide would have diluted the oxygen that would have been circulating in there, if any. And oxygen is needed. Oxygen is what forms oxyhemoglobin to be taken around the body and go to the joints and organs, the cells, them where they are needed. But if instead of oxygen being transported as oxyhemoglobin, you have carbon dioxide significantly substituting that oxygen, then you have carboxyhemoglobin going around. And the carbon dioxide cannot do the same job as the oxygen. So some persons might have been partially carbon dioxide poisoned. And parents would have punished their children because they lack a daisical. They reach home and they can't do a thing in the house. After coming out of those poorly ventilated foul coop they have up there for the children and them. We should be more passionate. We should be more sensitive. And I believe the construction of this Bastia High School should start without any further delay. The children ought not to be suffering that much. Some of them so small. Remember, we have first form, second form. It's not like once ago where Bastia High School started at third form and go up to sixth form. We now start at first form and go up to fifth form. Sixth form is now accommodated at the CFBC. So the surface areas of those little children can be impacted. The small surface of the body can be impacted so significantly. We must stop torturing people's children and get them out of that structure as quickly as possible. I don't even believe that they should have full day school at that place. Whether COVID done or not, it doesn't matter. I believe because of the poor ventilation and the heat inside of those classrooms, those children at Bastia High should be on shift. Nobody should be made to endure those conditions for a full day at school. That's torturing our children. The teachers, them are adult and they're more mature, they got more flexibility. If they ain't feel good, they go outside, catch some fresh oxygen. Children, them got to sit down there. If there's one fan in a class, the teacher puts the fan right there, that she can get the little heat exchange and provide them with a little less heated air coming onto her body and face, head. Can't be fair to the children. I believe that we should go back to the shift system at Bastia High School and stop torturing our children. You just got to be outright frank and honest without fear nor favor. The children were messed up for quite a number of years. Everybody wants to focus on some state of the art. State of the art what? The children's health should have been of greater consideration. If you feel where the state of the art school was supposed to offer some services different to what we would have ever had, build the school, then create a complex or a compound somewhere with these additional facilities and equipment and services, and every single school throughout the federation would have the opportunity to come down whenever the need would have come about and utilize the facility with the equipment and everything else. You cannot hold up a whole school and talk about no state of the art anything when the children them are suffering and you down there sitting down in air condition. Can't be. Where's the love for the children? No wonder so much of them turned away from school. Do an investigation. See the numbers. I know about some numbers. Because of what I used to be doing, I saw a lot of them. And surprisingly, I don't know where the truancy officers them gone all of a sudden. You have so many children who are supposed to be at school, liming, or just waiting for 3:30 to come to go home. So many of them never had bags. They didn't have bags because they had no intention of going in the class. They walk with a single book to skew the attention of the parents or guardian. A single book. But I really don't know how a parent could look at the child going to school with a single book folded in the back pocket. Well, you know, the schools, them doing 12 subjects, 13 subjects, 8 subjects, and a single book. And that book would have to be so thin that it can be folded properly to hold in the pockets. And you want to tell me parents and guardians did not take notice that apparently this child is not attending school? What about the reports? What about the reports when they reach home? And even before the reports reach home, you have what you call a mark sheet after the first 6 weeks. And they usually would invite parents at the school to see how the children are performing, have conversations, and say, well, he's weak in maths, he's weak in accounts, he's weak in science, get him some extra help, or make sure he put in some extra hours studying. But that too seems as if it has gone down the drain. You go to a school to check out the mark sheet, which would have the marks after 6 weeks. And sometimes the child doing 12 subjects, 10 subjects, and only about 3 marks in on the mark sheet. Only 3 marks in on the mark sheet. So what is the purpose of the mark sheet? Why don't we police our schools a little bit more to ensure that parents are being guided by the teachers with respect to entering marks on the mark sheet? That is a guide. Some of them don't even do work prep. You teach in a particular area for a length of time, you have your work prep. Maybe you make up this work prep since 1965, 1970. Syllabus changes, then you change it up. And then you have it now presenting for what, 10 years? Work prep doesn't work like that. You have to make the adjustments on a daily basis. Because if you wanted to cover certain topics and subtopics, and you did not get through with that coverage, you cannot start the next class as if, well, everything happened. You have to pick up from where you left off. So how could you work on a fixed work prep? I always believe teachers should be well paid, you know. But if you wish to be well paid, you must be well work as well. You must work for it. You can't have a fixed work prep for so long. Everybody in that class has differing abilities. Some would understand better than others, at a faster rate than others. It is your job to pick up the slack and work at a pace that the majority, sometimes you cannot get all. For you to get all, you might have to organize some extra sessions with the slow students. And this is why I can understand. When a teacher has free periods, because they have a set number of periods for a week or even a day, you have free periods. This is for you to go work out. What can I do to best facilitate the slow students, or even a fast student who might have had problems grasping a particular concept? It's not all the time your fastest students really grasp the concepts. You'll be surprised that sometimes who you consider slow might grasp a particular concept better than a faster student. You have to work out. You have to work out how could I use that free time to go and assist them. Not disappear off the school compound. Or go get engaged in any. If you have an emergency, so be it. preparing for you to just sit there and gossip and chat nonsense at times when there are students who should be helped. That is not how it goes. Because you also have work that the students would have given that you have to go and grade and put your assessment, put the corrections. Some people just mark wrong, and they do not put what the correct answer is supposed to be. You mark an essay, you give a child 7 out of 20, and hardly any red ink on the pages. Spelling, subject-verb agreement, punctuation issues. You're not putting what the punctuation ought to have been. But you give a child 7 out of 20. It's not like somebody gets 17 out of 20. You got 1 or 2 red marks in the book. You have to work. Unless our children will slip away. And when they slip away with respect to academics, they will slip into something else. They'll be retrofitted into something else. So some of us are responsible for the antisocial behaviors of some of these students. We got to be held accountable. They're going to school, you have to try your best. Some students complained to me that a particular teacher was supposed to be in the class. Rain was drizzling. The teacher eventually reached 5 minutes before the session was up. And she telling the students, "Well, I lucky I come." Did she call the treasury and say, "Look, I miss a whole session. Multiply my session that I would have per month and subtract that, prorate it and subtract it"? She didn't do that. But she's telling the students that they're lucky she come. They used to have a paper. And we're a young teacher, you know. Those that are senior, they like to take advantage of some of the younger teachers. I can recall when I first started teaching at Cairn High School and then later at Bastia High. Almost every free period I had, I would have gotten a paper and it read, "Due to the unavoidable absence of your co-worker, you're asked to substitute in this form at that time." So many of them I had. But I did not mind because I went to teach and I want to teach and I love to teach. I wonder if those papers still exist. It's like a short piece of paper. Due to the unavoidable absence of your co-worker, you're asked to substitute in maybe 3, 2 periods, 2 and 4. But where those papers are right now, why people are disappearing, leaving the school compound when they have what I call free period. We understand that people even go to another school to teach. Private school. Government paying you to teach the children at the government school. And we could leave our main job at the government school during the free period and then disappear to another school to teach for pay. So your children must suffer, and that's okay. And then when the children behave in a kind of way because they realize that they're not being paid the attention, they give you work to mark and they don't get back the book on time. Sometimes the books are not even marked, not even graded. They don't know whether they're going or coming. And that was a shortfall, a shortcoming of the non-face-to-face teaching when COVID was on. Some teachers send plenty work, and return none sometimes, or return without being graded, return graded but no comments, return graded but no suggested solutions. Man, these are our own people. These are the people. Life is like a relay. That baton would have to go even down to the unborn babies. So if you manufacture a particular mindset amongst the young people and they begin to be retrofitted into various places, it is not easy, you know. It is not easy. And some of you do not understand. You get a little challenge and you just take away your effort from helping persons who are seriously in need. Seriously in need. We have to look after the students as if they were our own. I would have dealt with some persons who were neglected at the academic level because the slightest thing they did, they were punished, disregarded, experienced stoic attitudes from those who were being paid to help them. Many of them ended up over HMP 1840. And when you talk to them, you see that there is some degree of intellectual capacity, but nobody wanted to take the time out to nurture these people. And as a result, that was the end product. Or seemingly, it was intended to be the end product. We had a high rate of recidivism, in and out of prison, in and out of prison. And then everybody would like to say that you're holding everybody else accountable apart from the persons themselves. But no, you got to hold them accountable too. But everybody can be accountable. Somebody has to be ultimately accountable. You can delegate responsibilities, but you can't delegate accountability. You can't delegate accountability. And if we had done better at those opportunities of educating and helping those guys to develop skills and acquisition of knowledge, our murder rate would have never been up in the 30s. Never. But we have an ongoing effort, and we shall see where that takes us. Not one of those inmates had a single subject when I encountered them. Some of them left prison with 28, 29, 30 subjects, associate degree, 14. Because they were getting ready to be reintegrated into society. How could we? If you're a teacher and you have experience and you're into sports and various stuff, sometimes you can look at how somebody plays sports to get an idea if that person has a capacity that other persons are not seeing. I watched Glenroy Smitten from St. Paul's bounce a basketball and made a few moves. And I told Mr. Dorset that, look, I would like to get that fellow in my math class. Provision was made, and Glenroy Smitten became a part of the class. And I could say no, that Glenroy Smitten might be one of the best math students ever in the entire Caribbean. Just by looking him bounce the ball and the move that he made, I worked out that. And Glenroy Smitten did what he's supposed to do. Glenroy Smitten is one of the inmates who go to Maurice Hillier to teach mathematics. As a matter of fact, he was able to get an associate degree in economics. I remember when they first brought integrated maths as part of the A-level syllabus. I put in several, I don't remember the exact value, but all the inmates who took integrated maths, they passed, and they passed with flying colors. They told the invigilator to tell CXC, stop embarrassing them by bringing those simple papers. And guess what? That same year, almost everybody at CFBC failed integrated maths. But all of the inmates then passed. Sometimes you just have to work with people. Take time. And then people started to say, well, because they have all the time on their hands, that is why they did so well. Time on your hand. A man got to go up the berry ground, cut down tree, cut down grass, come back in tired, drop sleep in the shower, how tired they be. And then had to come up in the classroom for class, 6 o'clock to 7:30 to 8 to 9 to 10. So don't think that they're just there sitting down, because you had to look at the nutrition too. You had the opportunity to supplement your diet in many ways, and they don't. Well, maybe in recent times, they might have adjusted that. But I can recall sending out a call to the Gigi, the Honorable Marcella Liebert back then. I think she was a minister of government. And she was the Minister of Health, and requested some vitamins for the guys and them who were studying. Because somehow they were not allowed to get. How can you incarcerate people and tell them they can't have vitamins? That's a real wicked system. Anyhow, we got through with them getting some vitamins, and they brought a big bottle with multivitamins to be shared out amongst the students who were taking examinations. Because you have to supplement. You need to strengthen your nerves, your brain got to be ticking over, you need to get adequate rest, everything. You need to eat properly, a balanced meal. But balance was out of balance at that time. And the guys and them performed. These guys, not one of them had a single O level before they started doing the subjects in prison. So maybe when you look at them, that was a manifestation of the failure of the persons who encountered them before. From an academic perspective, the shortchange the people. And you see where it led to. Incarceration, recidivism. If only we were more patient and compassionate and sensitive, the prison numbers would have never gone up to that overwhelming number it was at one time. But look at the issue now. The issue now is that there is peace amongst the gentlemen. Now, the young fellas feel that the older ones, they have peace, so they're going to take the opportunity now to become leaders and get a few followers with them. So now that we have the peace, we have some gangs forming within the context of the peace, because the older guys, them not taking on that. You might have had one or two occasions when things happen, but it is not a trend. You could refer to them, they are statistical outliers. So we need to have hold now on those youngsters. The Explorers Club, you have to commend them highly. The Explorers Club would have persons from a particular age to an upper age. Now, what happened to those who are not a part of the Explorers Club? They're spiraling out of control. They're spiraling out of control, a lot of them, because they're attempting to become leaders in the absence, due to the absence of those who did it before. We can do better than that. So we have a new wave. If you look at the spectrum, the different wavelength of young persons who want to present themselves as gang leaders and looking for followers. And some of them are very deceptive. They would tell you that XYZ is my uncle, is my brother, is my family. So they intimidate other students. And eventually they get a group of people following them. Well, my thing was to take the same people names who they were calling and say that this was my brother, this was my cousin, and this was that. Because they were calling some of the leaders them names to make people, because they were well known and people would know, in order to give them leeway to go and interfere with people's children and do what they wanted to do. So on occasions, I took the leaders' names, who they call, to the Bastia High School on several occasions. And for the guys them to tell them, you're not anything to me, who your people be. Stop doing this. So we try to nip it in the bud as early as possible. And it worked, but it needs to be continued. It needs to be continued. Because when you look at that video with 3-4 fellas kicking hell out of a school child, a female at that, and you haven't heard about any arrest, we have to be careful. We do not let things spiral out of control. And the problem is, they have become totally discombobulated with respect to how to punish these school children. Law enforcement want to leave it up to the school. The school is saying we had enough, we can't go with it. Law enforcement should do what they have to do. And until they could make a hard decision as to how to treat these people, things will continue to happen in our schools and go unattended. That is real horrible. You beat up somebody's child like that. 3 or 4 boys kick up the child, and that's supposed to finish there. The people in authority, they have to got common sense. They know that can't happen. That cannot happen because that little girl, she has family members. She has family members. So people would have to be called in. Family members get together and decide the best course of action. Because you might got 20 family members and 19 of them say one thing and the one out there ain't in agreement with that. And all hell broke loose. You have to be careful when you interfere with people, children, because you don't know who they have. I am still awaiting information that these guys were arrested. You see something, you have to arrest these people. Have them charged. Release them into the custody of their parents with certain conditions. And then you take them to court for trial. Well, the videos them there so they can say they're not guilty. And upon that guilt, now you can make a difference. You can come up with a sentence. You say, look, we're going to give you a suspended sentence. And you are asked to keep the peace and get rid of this antisocial behavior, stay far from that, for the next 3 years. And anytime you breach that, you just go over the prison for whatever time is on the sentence. Only then parents will start to have and pay more concern to the children who are bullying other people's children. You must take it to the court and let there be a conviction and a sentence. And once they would have kept the peace for that 3 years, you would not have a police record being created against those children. But they must understand that there's ramification. If we continually have them doing what they are doing to people's children, it would be a sad day if these youngsters spiral out of control. Those who are doing, the gentlemen them now have peace. We can't afford to allow persons to totally disregard the effort that had to be put in to construct that peace that we are now experiencing. A matter of fact, a good leader who I would have had the opportunity to work with. Somebody attacked him and get his hand all cut up, and I went to look for him. I tell him, look, despite the injuries that you suffered, don't put your hand on any weapon to go take revenge. And he listened. And he did not. He's now blossoming into an entrepreneur of good proportion. An entrepreneur. But you have to got the art to talk to these people to prevent revenge being taken. Because he had all reasons to go and retaliate. And I said to him, retaliate, you go to prison for a lot of years. What good that can bring you? Who would be there to walk along with the mother of your daughter? Who would be there? So he has come along and I want to commend him highly. But there was an incident in that same area. And he said to me, optimum pedagogue, teacher of a particular ratings. He said, something happened and I want to share it with you. I said, what? He said, a school girl from the Cairn High School, in the same area where the authorities seem as if they're being very indifferent about and looking for people who would have done nonsense to other people. You have videos, you have people cheering, you have people encouraging the boys them to kick hell out of the little girl. And he said the young lady told him that a fella jumped off a bus and put a knife to her stomach. And he has to go and deal with it. Now you see that? Jump off a bus, a child in her school uniform, somebody went and put a knife to her stomach. Now, teach, we need to discuss this because I need some guidance. And we would have met and we had a conversation. But these are things that we have going on because we look at people beating hell out of people's children. And between the Ministry of Education and law enforcement, they're behaving as if it's a pendulum in a vacuum, just going from side to side. No outside interference, so the pendulum just keeps going and going and going, oscillating like that. But I can't continue like that. You have to deal with people. When people hear about these things, You might be shocked to learn that, look, she has a very violent brother, violent cousin, violent uncle. And if you trigger off that violence, it could lead to more things. It could have domino effects. But I think the good gentlemen, they are trying their best to nip potential issues in the bud as early as possible. And I am saying that if the head teachers and those at the administrative level at our schools cannot make up their minds as to how to deal with issues because they're trying to save the face of the institution, it would be at the cost of society. It would be at the cost of society. You don't want to hear that 2 students from Sandy Point went in the court and they get this and they get that. You don't want to hear it about Convent. You don't want to hear it about Keon. You don't want to hear it about Vultures, Sadlers, Bastia High, Washi. Everybody trying to save the image of the school. When, videos up and down the place. Videos up and down the place so people know who is who. I saw the students them showing me this girl being beaten up by her boyfriend, a school child, because she says she's single. A female says she's single. And the boy vexed her that beat up the child at the school compound. And then still went home and beat her some more. And my understanding is that the mother knows of everything, and that's it. I really don't know this culture we're nurturing, boy. A young lady says she's single, and that was a license for somebody to beat the hell out of her. And it's on video. So who videotaped it? Who videotaped it at home? Who videotaped it in the school? Where either she videotaped it because she wanted to show that maybe the person loves her to that extent that he beats her, or he videotaped it for it to go out as a warning that she ain't a single. She got somebody in charge of her. These people need some serious psychotherapy. And we cannot afford for this thing to spiral out of control. We can ill afford for that to happen. If you want to be a soft head teacher and let things just get out of control, so be it. But it's going to bounce back. Karma doesn't have any menu. It serves you what you deserve. So people be mindful of that. This thing would start in the house. Tell your children to stop bullying other people's children. It starts right there. If that could happen in each home, not a child would be bullied. But if you feel that your child will be big and bad because they come home and tell you and brag about bullying other people, and you take up the glass, put in some vitamin and say, let's have a toast and that. We must be mindful. It can travel places, it can have domino effects. Just simply tell your children before they leave home and keep on repeating it. Stop bullying people's children. I listened to Sister Sensia. She was at Dr. Williams Connor School talking about bullying. She even put the mic to one or two of the students' mouths and asked them if they see somebody bullying another child, what they must do. And they indicated they must tell them, stop. But the very next day, I had reason to go to an eatery by the village. Drop somebody there to pick up something. And there was this young girl, maybe in grade 5, grade 6. She had on a little bit of weight on her. And the friends them who she went with, about 3 other friends. And I think they're in grade 6. Because I asked them who is their teacher. They told me, Miss Jeffers. I said, well, are you aware that you're bullying this young lady? She was from Anguilla. She had on a little weight, and all of them started on her, telling her most and many things. And I told them that I was rather disappointed because it just recently, I think it was either the day before, 2 days prior, that Sister Sensia would have spoken to them about bullying. And I said it is my intention to go to Dr. William Connors School, ask our teacher, Miss Jeffers, and explain to her and describe the person who was doing it. Because whilst there, the child answered the phone, and apparently the teacher seemed as if some teacher might have sent out the child to pick up her lunch down there. But you just can't have a session about bullying and you're down there bullying somebody like that. I asked them, do you know that this child, instead of going back to the school, could go somewhere and kill herself, commit suicide? You know you could cause this child to indicate to her mom that she doesn't want to go back to school. It would all be your fault. And I really had to have them had it. I let them have it. They have some other persons in the restaurant and they were listening. And one individual said, you're right. They do people's children a lot of stupidness all the time and do not understand the ramification. I can still identify the person, so I will go to Miss Jeffers when time permits. Maybe I should have done it without delay. However, I'll eventually get there soonest. Stop bullying people's children. And then it seems as if there's a policy. I don't know where the policy came from. Some teachers would indicate to you that the Ministry of Education would have asked them not to part any fights. I tried to have clarity on that. I was rather told that they indicated that you must part fights at your own risk. But I don't know what that's supposed to mean. If you're going to tell teachers, do not part fights or part fights at your own risk, who really supposed to part the fights? Who supposed to part the fight? Suppose you had a fifth former, big strong fifth former fellow, and a little nashy female teacher, and he beating hell out of that teacher. Would somebody part the fight then? How could you watch people, children fighting, and then what would you do? Just talk to the last person left standing? That cannot be a good policy. That cannot be a good policy. And you have some security guards who work at this school, and they do nothing of substance. Absolutely nothing. I was in the Keon area, and I had to call a teacher to the fence. He came, there's a preschool beside the high school, and he came to collect, apparently, his daughter, his son. And I asked him, are you a teacher at the Keon High School? He said, yes. I said, well, every so often, you have a set of fellas around here using indecent language throughout the entire morning, and you have some little children out there attending a daycare center. I tell you, monkey see, monkey do. Monkey hear, monkey say. And it cannot be right. I have never ever seen one security guard come to that side, the northern side of the Keon High School building. Not one. and the persons in that area indicated to me that they also have sex in the classrooms and that end of the school. Hi there. And no security guard. If security guard were making the rounds, many times it would have acted as a deterrent. So if you want to be security guard by the school, Kiana School has quite a number of persons over there, students. You have to do what you have to do. It sounds horrible. Bad word after bad word after bad word. One time I called out to 3 of them. I said, do you know whether or not I'm a police officer? And then they shut up. I said, I can come around and take you to the police station. Because if no one has control over you, then you have to learn a lesson the rough way. And he sort of said they apologized, but I did tell the teacher what happened. We are not monitoring our children properly at school. And the schools have obligation when parents drop off the children to school. They are under your control until 3:30. A parent wants to get a child from school, he has to get permission. Permission to take the child from school. We can't be so slack with our children. Let us take a break, acknowledge our sponsor. Well, no sponsor really. Let us take a break and come back.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer? Pandora come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKitts.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM. Fellow citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear No Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer? Pandora come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKitts.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear No Favor every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Good evening. Welcome back to Fear No Favor. Now, we want to look at something that is in the air from the legal perspective over on Nevis. You had the NRP authorities putting in application to be heard to address some concerns that they had. Now, a judgment came out indicating that their petition got struck out. Got struck out. Based on procedural mishap, where apparently the petitions were not filed on time. I find that to be very, very unfortunate. This is only my opinion. I find it to be very, very unfortunate. Whatever claims the NRP wanted to be addressed had to be claims of great concern, why they would have taken it to the court to be addressed. Now, I think that at times, for the sake and interest of the general public, some sort of initiative could be used to allow the extension of time. Anyhow, it was not done in this particular situation. It would have been so nice to hear the substantive matter tried in court and let the competing antagonistic judges or opposing judges effectuate the outcome. Not something about not filing on time and this and I can't buy into that. I have read about cases where persons would have had 14 days or 21 days to file an appeal. And it was over 200 and something days when the Privy Council would have allowed the appeal. So I don't see where a few days could have caused something of that nature. When people really wanted to know one way or the other if the substantive matter had in gum and substance for the NRP to get a by-election or for the judge to deny any such thing, one way or the other. I think it was within the interest of the NewRish public to have something like that go and be heard. If and only if what I am hearing is true, if and only if, in mathematics we say IFF, if and only if, that particular judge may have had reasons to recuse himself, he ought to have. That is what you're hearing. You're hearing about he ought not to have tried the matter because of whatever facts or perception. Right? Because remember, justice must not only be done, but it must be seen to have been done. And I understand that apparently the NRP would have put the appeal together. If I'm a judge in a particular case, for whatever reason, there is an iota of perception that I should recuse myself, because where there is smoke, there ought to have been fire. There ought to have been some logical reason why somebody might have asked for a judge to recuse himself from hearing a matter. If that was the case, if I was a judge, I would not have entertained that. I would have asked for somebody else to do it. I would have asked for somebody else to do it. Whatever the reason is. I have seen certain things, but I cannot speak to them because I would not have done any research in that area to ascertain one way or the other the reason or reasons they were asking, or they thought that that judge ought to have recused himself. Now, the Nivision public is not any wiser. And some people might say, look, you're talking about several votes. You lost a seat by 140 something. It doesn't matter the margin. Principals don't have margins. If it is felt that you received votes in a questionable way, and the court could ascertain or adjudicate judiciously that this is what transpired and it ought not to have been, so therefore have a by-election, let it be. Let it be. Don't let any procedural issue dampen the expectations of the general public in hearing the substantive matter heard. I don't know. That was a sort of funny issue. Very, very funny issue. And it's not like a year, not like a month. And I'm saying that I have read many, many, many cases because I like to read up cases where persons went way over the stipulated time frame and were granted permission to be heard. That they cannot be constitutionally correct. People have the right. You have human rights conventions to which St. Kitts Nevis would have acceded and ratified to. And to tell somebody that because they didn't come in a more timely fashion, they shall not be heard. Very, very, very unfortunate. And I would support an appeal against that. I'm not saying that the facts would be on NRP side, but I'm saying that those substantive matters ought to have been heard for the benefit of the Nivision public. If and only if you had a situation where 10 votes were cast and somebody got 19 out of 10, that is like abracadabra. Some magic stick had to be involved. And if that allegation, whether the margin was 1,000,000 or 1,000,000, if that allegation is true, based on principle, you don't know, you would have to start to doubt as to whether and how much out of the 140 something or the 160 something, how much of it was ill-gotten. We don't know. So let the courtroom bring out the facts. Let people go, put their hand on the Bible and swear to tell the truth and do what they have to do. That is the closest we could come to better understanding what happened. Sometimes you have some strong evidence against people, and it looks as if you're heading for victory. Strong evidence, only to learn that part of the evidence was ill-gotten, and therefore the whole case had to be thrown out. The whole case had to be thrown out. And we have to understand that the law, you see that blind thing around the eyes of the person, the law doesn't want to know who you are. Justice is blind. Doesn't matter who you. They don't want to see your face. They don't want to see how you dress. They don't want to know who your family is. Justice is blind. Look at the O.J. Simpson case. It seemed as if there was a preponderance of evidence in the minds of certain people, and that O.J. was going to be nailed with a guilty verdict. Mark Foreman, an investigating officer, gave evidence, and they asked him, have you ever used the N-word? He said no. They asked him over and over. He said no. Mind, this is a star witness. But I asked him over and over if he had ever used the N-word in the last maybe 5 years, 10 years. Can't quite recollect the duration of time that the question was built on. Anyhow, he said no. Next thing, they went and they produced evidence of Mark Foreman using the N-word. Using the N-word. And threw that entire case off of its leg. Entire case. And of course, the brilliance of Johnny Cochran. If you had a pair of gloves and some time would have gone by, the elements of the weather or the humidity, if those gloves were not worn for a period of time. And O.J. Simpson, an intelligent man, when they asked him, when Gardner asked O.J. Simpson to try on those gloves, and you see how those gloves were looking, plus the fact that O.J. just spread his hands, his fingers. So, if you're putting on gloves and you spread your fingers, there's no way that glove going to come down. And that is precisely what happened. Spreaded his fingers, and he pulled and pulled and pulled to show that the gloves would not fit. And Johnny Cochran famously said, if the gloves don't fit, you have to acquit. And that is exactly what happened. So everybody always have their strategy when they are at a trial. Because with a criminal matter, the prosecution, they have the burden of proving beyond a reasonable doubt. So anytime an iota of doubt is created in the minds of the jury panel, then it is amen. So we're really hinging on the fact that persons are talking about the distance, the margin, the differentiation between the winner and the loser. And I say that even in a murder case, with a preponderance of evidence, just one ill-gotten piece of evidence could throw the whole case asunder. So if you can prove that out of that 145, 156, 170, that just 3 of them were ill-gotten, somebody might want to say, let us extrapolate. Because if they did it here, they might have done it there. They might have all sort of a plethora of permutations and combinations. Anything could have happened. And it would have been so nice. It would be nice to hear how those concerns play out in the court. In other words, the substantive matter is given a chance to be heard. It is just that. If you know that you won and you won fairly, you could tell the judge, I don't mind, we want it to be heard. We're not objecting to the fact that it didn't come on time. I'm not objecting to that. Let us hear the substantive matter. We're big, bold, and confident that we would win. Let us take a break. Wow.
Fellow citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear Nor Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear Nor Favor. Every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM. Fellow citizens, near and far, join NewRish Nital on Sugar City 90.3 for Fear Nor Favor.
Where is man? Where is the cancer man? No runner come out for war.
Tune in to 90.3 on your FM dial. Log on to SugarCityFMSaintKits.com or download Simple Radio app from the Google Play Store. And join NewRish Nital every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. as NewRish Nital tackles the issues and take your call. Fear Nor Favor. Every Thursday night from 8 to 10 p.m. on Sugar City 90.3 FM.
Welcome back to Fear Nor Favor. Now, we're quite aware of the situation of some Haitians that we have. And of course, we empathize with all Haitians who are currently being disadvantaged in their homes in Haiti due to the violence and the fact that it seems to be spiraling out of control. We are hoping that those mighty powers, especially America, they went to Grenada, they did a lot of stuff. We are hoping that they can go and be of assistance to the people of Haiti. Imagine Haiti was the front runner in our region with respect to getting the independence and moving away from the control of the whites. Now they are experiencing one of the most difficult situations in their history. I mean, since they would have gained their independence and everything else, and we're hoping that they could have gone on a different trajectory. Things are not so well for them. Now, there were some Haitians who apparently came into the waters of our federation. And some persons are saying that they ought not to have them return to Haiti, and some are saying that they ought to return to Haiti. It's a very unfortunate situation. It is a very delicate equilibrium to establish because we would like to help our brothers and sisters over in Haiti. But we also have to take into account that we're supposed to be a law-abiding society. Now, you have persons who were taken from those boats and they were taken into custody by the legal authorities. And of course, my understanding is that they have been treated with dignity, they are being treated with respect, and that's the best we can do for them. Now the question is, what should be done with those Haitians? When explanations were given by them to the authorities, they indicated that they were on their way to St. Martin and the engine was messed up. Sound like a common thread of explanation with respect to what they would like to tell authorities whenever something like that happens. Now, if they were on their way to St. Martin and the engines cranked out, so to speak, and we got persons to checked out the engine and put back those engines in good shape, because they said they were going to St. Martin to shop. Wow. So if we got the engines back working, do you think that we should just allow them to continue on their journey? Because I don't think there is proof that to convince the authorities that they were going to St. Martin to shop. If we facilitate that and even allow them to go on the journey to St. Martin as they indicated, we can be seen as facilitating human trafficking, because those guys, those captains, those guys who maneuver those ships through the waters, they make quite a bit of money from those operations. They make quite a bit of money from those operations. So as such, that must be discouraged as well. So letting them go on to St. Martin, it would look as if we are facilitating human trafficking, because precisely in the opinions of many, that is what is being done. I think we have a lawyer here by the name of Craig Tuckett, recently got called to the bar, doing some work on their behalf to maybe have them seek asylum or get asylum here in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis. Nothing wrong with that. A lawyer would have to do what a lawyer has to do. However, we are struggling. You hear the Visions complaining about the fair share. So if we are not in a position, quote unquote, to provide Nevis with a fair share, how are we going to bring in Haitians and even make the share less than what they're getting by facilitating these people? Somebody might say it's not a 15,000, it's not a whatever. But whatever you have to share. You ever have a cake and try to slice it up amongst 4 people, and then 6 people, then 8, and then 10? It becomes less and less and less and less. And it would be unfair to us, Kittitians, to have to sacrifice our fair share to accommodate somebody else. Because that fair share doesn't mean that food out your pot you would have to give those people. You might have to increase the social safety nets to make sure that they are treated properly. They would have to utilize our health facilities. And as such, we might have to increase taxes someday to facilitate the increasing of money we put into these social safety nets. So it could have serious ramifications. And we are quite aware of that. So I don't know what Kitty Vision's intentions are, or the perception, or the opinion. But we allow them to go. We look as if we are supporting human trafficking. If we allow them to stay here, they'll put a burden on our very scarce resources. Interestingly, I knew of someone from the Federation. I think he was from Nevis, to be exact. He came into the Federation and he was arrested and tried for entering the Federation illegally. He came via boat. He was tried for returning home illegally. So here you have some persons who are not from here, coming here via a boat. And it is all right to have them here. But poor my good friend was arrested and charged for re-entering the Federation illegally. That is something for us to think about. Something for us to think about. Are we ready to take our share and shave off and shave off and shave off? Sandy Point people need a fair share. Jetbay people, Newton Gong people, Parson Gong, Bellevue, Tabernacle, Mansion, Christchurch, Molyneux, Phillips's, Lodge, Otley's, Keyon, Canada, Keys, Connery, Bastia, East Bastia, West Central Bastia. All those persons would want the fair share. So no government on its own without proper consultation should continue to have those people who craving for the fair share to have the effort to effectuate that decrease considerably by allowing persons to stay here against the wishes of those who are craving a better way. It's not him to say they came here legally and they're moving around and trying to get asylum. Well, they came here illegally. If a Kitty Vision could come here and be charged for re-entering the Federation illegally, and you have these, the only thing you have to do is sort them out and get them back and let them know there's a legal way to come. But then somebody might say that is real hostile and wicked, especially given where they have to return to. It is a very complex situation, but there are arguments on both sides. And it depends on how sensitive we are to certain things. You have people here who without jobs for quite a while too. There are people here who, instead of eating 4 square meals, maybe eating 3. Maybe if you start to bring in people and set a wrong precedent, the information might get out there that yes, we are offering people asylums here. And then what happens? Their socio-financial situation would be overwhelmed. Taxes would have to be increased or imposed. Remember, the VAT, that 17% VAT was introduced in order to assist in paying back the IMF. We would have paid out the IMF, and that VAT is still here as a noose around some people's neck. So if you want people to come in and cause the government to offset the expenses they would have to incur by facilitating asylum and other stuff for these people, and then even when we would have settled in, those taxes would still remain. I don't think we could take any more. Unfortunately, that is my position. I really don't think that we can take any more or we should take any more. I wish the lawyers well in their quest to facilitate some amelioration to those persons who would have bravely come across and ended up in our waters. But I don't believe they're telling a true story. They were on their way to shop and the engine failed. I think that sounds very calculated. And it is said that you must come to equity with clean hands. You were not honest in the beginning, and therefore you ought not to be facilitated. On that note, we have come to the end of our show for tonight, and I'm hoping to have the good doctor with me next week. And we're hoping to have yet another great show. Thanks for listening, and enjoy the rest of what is left of today.
The opinions and statements made by the host and participants in this program are